So we've been talking about Michael Bloomberg a little bit lately on the channel. I just made a video about him yesterday and his ingenious idea of a way to give poor people a happier life and a longer life, which is tax them because that's going to work, and make it harder for them to buy things, namely perhaps their unhealthy habits. Okay. But as predicted, as outrageous as a policy like that may sound, people like me saw this coming from a mile away. And people like me were even saying it as soon as we found out this, ass clown was jumping into the race. Mainstream media is going to be all up this guy's backside, kissing up one cheek and down the other, trying to push him along. Now, of course, he's not really going to need much issue or need much help. He's not going to have any issue with, promotion. Man's already spent, I think, a record amount of money on ads. I've been seeing his ads all over, YouTube here and stuff. And apparently he's bought ads in a whole lot of states. So, yeah, he's definitely got the promotional part down pat. But, of course, the mainstream media, shit, let's just go ahead and help him out a little bit more. Why not? Okay? So that's the game that they're playing here recently, and more. Now, to be fair, I've been seeing some clips where some are kind of on the fence, like, they at least go out and ask voters, and you kind of get a response that you'd expect, which we'll be discussing later in the video. But then you have these moments, namely that I've seen on CNN, where, the one I covered a while back, Brian Stelter brings on old Smoochy Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, to give his expert opinion on how Michael Bloomberg is Trump's biggest threat in the 2020 election, and how he's the man that Trump actually fears most, more than anyone else. Okay? And of course, now we're going to take a look at another clip where a CNN news anchor is discussing what sort of coverage has Michael Bloomberg gotten since he jumped into this race, and is it really fair? Let's take a listen to his take and then we'll discuss.
I'm Michael Smerconish in New York City today and wondering why all the hostility toward Michael Bloomberg. The former mayor of New York City formally entered the presidential race this week. He was greeted with a torrent of nasty headlines. Take a look at these. No other Democratic candidate was so coldly welcomed into the race. Bloomberg got no honeymoon. Think about it. When Elizabeth Warren announced that the initial coverage speak to her, quote, baggage, did the first round of stories about Bernie Sanders address the, quote, huge barriers he'd confront? Anybody ever use the word groan regarding Kamala Harris? Anyone ever say disqualify soon after Amy Klobuchar announced? No way. It's been a total double standard, with much of the animus directed at Bloomberg's wealth. Instead of focusing on the fact that he's the son of a middle-class accountant who earned his money himself, and that by not accepting donations, he did not prostitute himself to the political process, his self-financing is cast as a negative and his uniquely American story largely ignored. Well, I have a different perspective. I say, welcome, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your willingness to enter what TR described as the arena. You've been in this race just a week, and already your face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. You don't need this. You can spend the...
Wait, whoa. So first of all, no one else got the negative coverage that Michael Bloomberg got. That's what he starts with here, right? Okay. Who else besides Deval Patrick, who drew two people to Morehouse College, jumped in this late in the game? I mean, seriously? No one else did that. And if you listen to what half of the voters were saying in polls, even on CNN's own network, people were like, yeah, we've already got enough people running. We don't need this guy. If he wanted to run for president, he should have jumped in when everyone else was jumping on the train to run for president. There's no sense in him getting involved this late. It's pointless. He shouldn't be doing it. He needs to just keep his nose out of it. Support whoever's running right now. Pick a candidate, but no, he shouldn't jump in. There was no real movement behind this guy to even jump into the race right now. And they were getting that from more and more and more people. No one got behind him to even launch his campaign. So, of course, there's probably going to be a lot of negative feedback. There's no grassroots movement behind Bloomberg to even announce in the first place. And what is this genius's excuse for Bloomberg? Oh, well, because he's financing himself, and people should be admiring that he is financing himself and X, Y, and Z here, right? And so that means he will not be prostituted out to special interests, or however he put it. So first of all, Mike Bloomberg is indeed, yes, financing himself, and if he were running on some issues that would be good issues for, America's middle class, that's great. But remember here, people, we're talking about a man who was pro stop and frisk. We're talking about a man who, less than the amount of time it would take to drink a cup of coffee ago, was a Republican, switched to independent, not my kind of independent anyway, and then now he's a Democrat. So, very quick transitions here from Mr. Bloomberg as far as where his political alliances lie. So keep that in mind as well. But lastly, policy-wise, again, covered it yesterday. This guy wants to tax poor people more because increasing taxes on poor people affects their behavior in the right way better than, I guess, raising taxes on the rich people might affect their behaviors. And as far as that whole remark goes about how, because he's financing himself, that means he won't be prostituted out to special interests or whatever. Here's the problem. It's people like Michael Bloomberg who are the freaking pimps of this special interest political process. They are the pimps of the whole thing. It's those lower level politicians who've been taking money from people like Bloomberg or people like Trump before he ran for office, or all these other rich jackasses out there who have been funding all these politicians to do their bidding when they get into office. The people who take the money from Big Pharma, the people who take the money from the big insurance companies, the people who are taking in money from the military industrial complex and the DoD contractors, those are the prostitutes. The people give them the money, those rich special interests, Michael Bloomberg included, they're the freaking pimps. So he's not excluded from anything. The only difference is he's the pimp stepping in and doing the job of the prostitute this time around. He's playing both. He's pimping and prostituting here. He just doesn't have the same image as the other prostitutes because, they're the old slimy, sleazy looking ones that are clearly serving someone else. He's just serving himself.
Rest of your years with your feet up in Bermuda. Hell, you could buy Bermuda, but you choose to continue to contribute, both with your donations and with your talents. Your ethics seem above reproach. You're a data-driven non-ideologue. And by most accounts, New York City benefited from your leadership of 12 years. So I say good luck. You can have my salt shaker and my sugary drink. Just make the trains run on time. Joining me now is Scott Galloway. He's a professor of marketing at NYU Stern.
What's this guy's name? Smear Conch? Whatever this CNN host's name is. Please, if you're anywhere out there and you ever hear this video, I'm curious about something. I'm very curious about something. Maybe you can help me figure this out. Not that I ever want to try it for myself. I'm just mind blown. So, if you ever hear this video, please tell me. How does it feel to be that far up Michael Bloomberg's ass? Does it feel nice? Does it polish your bald head a little bit? Put a nice little coat of wax on top? I mean, did it give you this rejuvenating feeling that you gave him a prostate exam with your bald head in this segment? Did that help you out a little bit? Did you get some sort of pleasure out of this? Because your head was so far up his ass, you gave him a human colonoscopy. You weren't kissing his ass. You had your head completely up this man's ass. You basically were sitting here in this segment worshiping Michael Bloomberg like a demigod. Yes, take my sugary drink. Take my salt taker away. Please, Mr. Bloomberg. You've been doing so great for so long. I'm just so happy that you're running. Oh, my God. I don't know what to do with myself. Seriously? You're that obsessed with Michael Bloomberg? Okay. To each their own. To each their own. But if this is any sign of what's to come on Bloomberg coverage, get ready for a long season, people. It's going to be a really, really long season. Because this is just flat out ridiculous. I mean, when you've got the issue of news networks, CNN, MSNBC, all these news networks, mainstream media outlets, trying to hide people like Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, and even Bernie. Obviously, because of how far up in the polls Bernie is, and again, I keep citing polls. Yet, if some of you are confused where I say I don't trust polls, yet I still cite the poll percentages, I'm going to cite them, but doesn't mean I necessarily have full faith that they're accurate or very trustworthy. I don't believe them. But there's really nothing else that we have to measure off of aside from individual donations and what's online and grassroots, of course. Yeah, but that's all a bunch of Russian bots online. So, we can't count that anyway because, me and all the other people out there that's been blowing up Twitter, sharing, tells us we're all just a bunch of Russian bots. I'm just a Russian redneck over here in South Carolina. Okay. So, aside from that, I kind of have to use the polls. But they still try to bury Bernie's message. Remember, it was MSNBC who fired Ed Schultz, an actual journalist, back during the 2015-2016 cycle because they were insistent you only cover Clinton and he wanted to cover Bernie Sanders. They fired him. Got rid of him. And God rest his soul because unfortunately Ed Schultz is no longer with us. Okay, but yeah, I mean, so these news networks want to conceal their message, yet put this bald douchebag on television to give his expert opinion about how to hear him tell it. Michael Bloomberg, he's basically pulling a Rick Perry right now. Rick Perry said that God chose Donald Trump. Donald Trump was chosen by God or something like that recently. This is how this guy's acting right now. He's basically saying that Michael Bloomberg is God's gift to the 2020 Democratic presidential race. That the sun shines out of Michael Bloomberg's ass. The man wakes up every morning and pisses excellence. And that he is just so lucky that he is sitting in New York City, a town that Michael Bloomberg used to be the mayor of, and that it is just an honor for him to even breathe the same air that Michael Bloomberg has breathed during his time living in New York City, because he is just that fine of a human being, and he is without a doubt the best American success story running in the race right now, and that everyone should be striving to be like Mike. Okay. Yeah, have fun living in that BS reality, because I don't want to be like Mike. I damn sure don't want him to be the nominee for the 2020 election. And let's just remember, by the way, people, Everybody said Clinton would beat Trump. Trump's sitting in the White House right now. We've seen what happens when a centrist candidate, and when I say centrist, I don't mean independent like me. I mean corporate centrists. Okay, the crony capitalism Democrats. Okay, we've seen what happens when one of those goes up against Donald Trump. Okay, now you may argue, well, Hillary Clinton just had a whole lot of negative factors going for her. Been in the public eye too long, blah, 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 blah. And some of these others are not as well known, so maybe they stand a better chance. Maybe. I would give that argument some validation. However, even still, if you think Michael Bloomberg is the exception, the only thing Michael Bloomberg has got going for him is that he's going to have more money than Donald Trump. But when it comes to the debate stage, I'm going to make a prediction. Donald Trump's going to clean this guy's clock. What is Michael Bloomberg going to have popularity-wise that he's going to be able to fight Trump with? Because, see, it's like this. Trump had much more support from minority communities in the 2016 election cycle than most Republicans had in recent elections. Whether you like it or not, it was a simple fact. He, as controversial as he was in the minority communities, he did get more support from them than most other Republican presidents got. They didn't go to Clinton, okay? And Michael Bloomberg is not very popular with especially the African American community because of the whole stop and frisk thing. So how's he going to win those votes back? I don't see that happening, first and foremost. And then, considering this guy has made the comments about, we need to tax the poor so they can live longer and have happier lives. And meanwhile, again, we all know that most of the tax breaks went to the, rich people. However, even though most of the tax breaks did go to, the rich people in the country, people at my level still saw an increase in our paychecks. And so if you're not one of those who examines the fine print to realize, I might have gotten something in return, but still the bulk of it went to people who made a whole lot more money than me. There's a lot of blue collar people out there who don't, study this stuff in and out all day long. And they're going to sit there and say, we got some money back from him. He cut our taxes. I like that. He cut our taxes. We got more money in our paycheck now. And meanwhile, you've got a rich, silver spoon New Yorker telling you he wants to tax your unhealthy habits and put more taxes on you, but he's not talking about tightening up the tax code on these rich pricks like Jeff Bezos and company who are getting away with paying no taxes. No, he's going to tax your unhealthy habits so that you can live happier, longer lives. Do you think that Trump is not going to be all over that? To use a nice little cliche we like to use down here in the South, he's going to be all over that like a hog on slop. Really, he's going to clean the debate stage with you, and you're going to be his mop, son. He's going to take you from pillar to post all night long. If that's what anyone thinks is going to beat Donald Trump, I got a bridge to sell you. And it's a big old bridge, too. Okay, no, in all actuality, you get more and more people trying to say Tulsi Gabbard has no chance, blah, 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 blah. Let me be perfectly honest. In my opinion, I know polls say that Bernie could beat Trump. I think Andrew Yang might have a pretty good chance at beating Donald Trump. But in all actuality, polling aside, my opinion, Tulsi Gabbard has the best chance of anyone running for president to beat Donald Trump. He really has nothing that he's going to be able to land solid attacks against her with. But for a lot of people who went for Trump for the anti-interventionism, the bad free trade deals, she can land those attacks on him because he ran on it and hasn't followed through like he said he would in a lot of areas. Whereas in Tulsi's case, how's he going to say she's not going to live up to it? Everything Tulsi has stood on principle, she's backed up. When she didn't like what the DNC was doing to Bernie, she resigned her position. she's a person of principle. When she says something, she means it. She means it. Agree with her or disagree with her on it, she stands by her beliefs and her morals. You know, an old country music song by a man named Aaron Tippin. You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Tulsi stands for what she believes in. Agree with her or disagree with her. She stands for it, and she's not going to back down from it. If she thinks it's the right thing to do, she's going to do it. And that's just the way it is. Okay, so she stands the best chance, yet all this mainstream media is going to keep pushing is Michael tax the poor Bloomberg. When Trump gets 2 terms, I don't want to hear all you talking heads in the mainstream media grumbling for the next 4 years because you're the people helping him win that next election. So if he wins, don't come out blaming the Russians. Don't come out blaming election interference. Don't come out with any excuse. You, the DNC, and all you corrupt talking heads who don't want a people's candidate, you want your corporate rich candidates, you are all to blame if he wins the next election. Don't blame us. Don't blame anyone else. Blame your damn selves.